the goal area. And just once the ball gets slipped across, she just doesn't really have a chance. So if she just adjusted her positioning and maybe had her hips facing the ball a little bit more and was a little bit more, I guess, centrally a tad bit, it'd be easier for her to maybe, one, impact the ball that's played across, or two, be preventative when the shot was coming off of like a spread. That's what my choice would have been. I would have tried to spread into the 6-yard box as the ball got played across to try to be preventative on the shot coming on the goal frame.
Yeah, that's brilliant. And I think it's just worth noting, and you said this, right? Like, it's one of the first things I wrote down when you started talking was this is difficult. The half space just creates so much chaos and so much need to be decisive for defenders and for the goalkeeper. So that's why teams want to get in there. There's so many things you could do from the half space, whether it be take it to the end line and cut it back, whether it be drive in for a 1v1, whether it be create a combination play, whether it be cut it back into your inside foot and have a shot, whether it be kind of like clipped or smaller cross in, depending on where you are inside the half space. There's just so much variation of what could occur. And I think that's why sometimes positioning does get difficult. She has the right idea, drop back, defend that the goal, right? Wait to maybe defend the space. But from here, it's almost like, all right, I'm only worried about protecting one thing. Takes us back to your intended or your first point of like, you want to try to impact or affect multiple outcomes. And in this case, you really have nothing but protecting that near post.
And it kind of goes back to, I guess, another point. It wasn't like a key point, but as the ball gets played through, because this was the original ball was a pretty like longer pass through to like break the back line. And if you scan a little bit earlier, like out of possession and recognize like where runners are, sometimes it makes your job easier.
Yep.
And as the ball gets played from the deeper area at the start of the clip, you could kind of tell pretty early that LA's only going to be able to get one attacker in the box, and she's making a central run. So my first idea is like, all right, if my positioning's good and I can't impact it, I kind of have an idea already in my head where the shot's going to come from. Maybe not exact, but I know she's not the back post. I know she's not making a near post run. I know it's going to come somewhere in the central area of the goal.
I know she has a defender putting on pressure here.
Yeah, 100%. And it, depending on the line of this pass, which was pretty threatening, I mean, it's right outside the 6-yard box, it kind of helps me understand where I could take my line to the ball to be preventative and impact it, whether if it's a spread or a smother, whatever you would like to choose there.
Right. And it gives you the ability to do that if you adjust your positioning, because right now, the way she sets herself, it would be really hard to get into her spread or smother and be preventative there. However, if her hips were angled, that's a different story. And we're talking about being able to kind of like grab that ground and push into that preventative measure as well.
100%.
All right, Kieran. Looks like we're switching over to the men's game on this one.
Yeah, I had to get a Man City clip in here, but
makes sense. It's
actually not Man City's goalkeeper. It's Allison. So it kind of is the opposite of what we were kind of just talking about 2 clips ago. It's a great ball from De Bruyne. He plays it into the half space, but Allison recognizes pretty early that when he leaves the most dangerous area of the goal, he can prevent this ball. So it was a great decision, and there wasn't much risk here because he had a recovering defender. This was really the only dangerous player in the box as of right now. He has another center back covering the other run. And since he was so decisive and he took off early in his spread, it was pretty easy for him to prevent. And then the cross comes in. I'm not sure what happens for this. I clipped it, but
I think it's another good fill into one of your points of like, all right, can I save this on the near post? And I did, and I used my preventative measures to do it. And then it comes back out here, and he's in a position where he's being patient. He's got defenders back, and he's ready to impact what he maybe potentially can. He gets back on that near post, gets himself squared up, and then comes in. So
even there, if you go back, it's a little bit tricky if the people that are watching, this is something that I've tried to really think about, like when I'm coaching, is especially since he has 2 defenders there, this might be a case where my hips are a little bit turned and I'm not as squared off. It's definitely up for debate, but I just feel like he has really good coverage from his defenders on a ball that's played on the floor across, especially really close to the 6-yard box. But what I would really be worried about if I scanned and knew there was a player behind me, or even Jack Grealish with his arm up, I would be really worried about this ball that's lifted in the air.
Yeah.
So maybe my first thought would be I don't know if this is going to come on the floor or it's going to come in the air, but when you're in the run of play like this after he already made a save, it's really difficult to
100%.
to think that way and make these quick adjustments.
Yeah, one thing that I've been talking a lot about when it comes to half space and like as it transitions into end line service, goalkeepers have a lot of questions of like, when do I take my positioning from like, maybe being on the angle here or being a little bit more set into my goal to being butt level with this post and squared up. And for me, the easiest way to say it, and I don't think it's like super concrete and like black and white. There's not many things in goalkeeping that are, but as you get closer down this line, that's when I'm starting to come closer to my post. If you could pass it in or if someone could tap it in there, I want to be protecting that area. So for me, if I was to draw an arrow from here with the tip here, I would say as it draws down that line, that's when I'm getting closer. Obviously, maybe like if there's no pressure here, that's when I decide, okay, how close are you getting? Can I be preventive? Kind of like Allison did in the first clips.
Yeah, and it's tough. Like I feel like when I look at this clip, especially the second part, which wasn't really my main goal of like showing it, but I would try to recognize like who is the most dangerous attacker right now.
Right.
And who would be the biggest threat. And like, since there's 5 Liverpool players in the front half of this 18-yard box, and there's no one really like, if there was a City player like in the middle of these 4 defenders, then I'd be really worried about it. But if De Bruyne cuts it back to Mahrez, who's at the top of the box, he has some coverage from Fabinho there who can maybe step and block the shot. But it's just, would be really concerned about the 2 runners at the back post, just because the right side center back, I guess, doesn't really know he's there. The outside back's not sure if he should cover either which run. It gets difficult. It's definitely like up for debate, and I guess it also maybe relates back to what your goalkeeper's strengths are and what they feel comfortable with.
Absolutely. It also goes back to like why it's so important for goalkeepers to also understand the roles and responsibilities of their teammates, right? Like this is a situation that we faced a lot this fall in particular, where there'd be this back post runner and our weak side center back and weak side outside back were always like, do I call the midfielder back? But we shouldn't need to call our midfielder back. And this is why it's important to know your tactical and like formation approach as well, because you need to know who's picking these up. Because look at him right here. He's confused. Who should I go to? Who's more dangerous, right? And I mean, you don't want either of these players open. We both know that. So that just kind of goes in and could be a sidebar point of like, it's helpful to know the roles and responsibilities of your teammates so you can be directing information in these scenarios as well. All right, I think we're on our final clip, Kieran.
Yeah, last one. Oh, it's Mandy again.
Yeah, it is.
See, this is a great. I thought this was like one of the best clips I've seen of her that I've ended up finding or found on my computer and my phone. Is same idea. Like, it's a really dangerous pass. It was actually a great pass from the player on Spirit, but it's kind of just inside the half space. So, like, I guess the debate on the line of the wide area in the half space, but she recognizes really early that this player is super dangerous and it's really tough. Going to be really tough for me to react. You're going to assume that the attacker on Spirit's going to shoot it on one touch. So she just comes out and makes herself super big and spreads early and ended up making a really, really good save. But this one I liked because it wasn't as like deep towards the end line. It was kind of like an earlier ball. And I mean, Mandy's in really good position here. She's got pressure on the ball. The forward on Spirit doesn't really look like she's going to shoot the ball. So she's just trying to look and pick up runners. And you can see, again, she's pointing. She does a really good job of this in a lot of the matches and clips I've seen of her, is recognizing where the danger is before the ball is played in. And right when she sees it slipped, she makes a really quick decision because she knows that they're kind of like in a 2v1 essentially. Like Utah's only got one player there that can maybe block the pass from being played through besides pressure on the ball. And immediately as it gets played through, she's super preventative. And it just goes back to another point of like prevent when I can and react when I must.
I also love it too, because from here, her positioning is so great. And for me, positioning is one of the most important parts of half space, right? Like it's
one of the hardest, to be fair. Like it sounds super easy, but it's really difficult.
Because if she chooses, I think she hits that with her left foot, like a little like dink pass. I don't know what you call a stab.
Like outside the foot or something. But
if she chooses to cross this, Mandy's in such like that is ultimately what's so difficult besides the chaos. And the reason there is chaos from the half space is because could be a cutback, could be a cross, could be a slip ball for 1v1, could be a shot. So depending on where they are, where their runners are, and where the defensive pressure is, like we have to be mindful of our positioning. And just going back to one of your, I think it was point number 1, you have to be ready to impact multiple outcomes without giving up too much of one.
And I think like if you go back to when before the player on Spirit like is gonna shoot it or like pass it, she kind of knows. I'm assuming she like maybe someone watching is like, well, there's a lot of the goal that's open, but if the player on Spirit ends up pushing it on her right foot and then like the touch kind of looks threatening, like she would have adjusted her positioning accordingly.
Right.
But since there's
Welcome to the Keeper Institute podcast. My name is Tori Corsaro. I'm a strength and conditioning and goalkeeper coach here at the Keeper Institute and your host for today's show. The Keeper Institute is a unique goalkeeper training facility in New Jersey aimed at developing better goalkeepers and better people. On this podcast, we will be discussing all things goalkeeping, character development, and more. Welcome back to the Keeper Institute podcast. Bow, 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 bow. Bow, bow, bow. Fancy. I like it. We are here. We are ready, and we have something a little bit different for you today. We're gonna teach you a little bit about something that I'm gonna call one of Jill Loyden's newest babies.
Yeah, I need more children. Like I need a hole in my head. Is that the same?
More dependence. You need more dependence. Like more cats and 3 dogs.
Oh, golly. I don't need any more dependence. However, we are super passionate about helping goalkeepers develop as athletes and even better people. It's on our walls. It's our mission statement. We want to help create good goalkeepers and better people. But I think one of the more important elements of our mission and my personal mission is to change the landscape of goalkeeping around our country. I think that we are behind in terms of where we could be, in terms of creating well-rounded, competent goalkeepers at every age and stage and level in our country. And I think over the last 4 to 5 years, we've really seen a huge uptick in goalkeepers' performances and confidence with goalkeepers at TKI. And I think it has nothing to do with our facility. And it has everything to do with the coaches that we get to work with on a daily basis, Tori, and our colleagues having a really great understanding of the most efficient way to teach. And something that I'm very passionate about is not just coaching goalkeepers, but coaching people who want to be career goalkeeper coaches. And we have created a course that we are starting. Well, we would have already started it by the time you hear this podcast, but we are creating a course that we're running in-house with our TKI coaches. It's great to continue your education and understand things on a more deep base, but also for our staff to be able to give criticism, feedback to how we explicitly want to help the next generation of young goalkeeper coaches succeed. And I'm not sure your experience, which I hope you'll share, but for me, when I transitioned into the coaching world, I knew I wanted to coach. Even when I was playing, I knew like this is fine and this is good, but ultimately I want to shape the next generation to do way more incredible things than I've ever done. And so even when I was playing, I would write down exercises, write down drills that I enjoyed doing with my coaches, write down some of the things that they said, the feedback. And essentially I created this notebook, this portfolio of everyone else. And I just did what everyone else did. And I became a watered down version of some of the most influential coaches that I've had in my career and didn't put my own stamp on things. And so basically I retired, I started coaching, became a professional coach right away, which I was nowhere near ready for or should have never had a job like that. But I just became a watered down version of someone else without really putting my own spin, without having a philosophy, a methodology, without having explicit principles of play, explicit principles of session design or teaching. And it wasn't until the company started to grow and I realized, okay, I need this isn't the Joe Loyden Keeper Institute. This is the Keeper Institute. And we're going to be a team of people who are all inputting their own stamp on things, coming up with their own expertise, right? And this is going to be a collaboration. And so often as a goalkeeper, I felt alone in the goal. And then when I transitioned to coaching, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm even more alone because I have no one to collaborate with. And I have however many people that I'm in charge of helping and aiding their development. And so basically, we are going to start the TKI Coaching College, which is a 1 to 2 year program at TKI that we want to bring people on who want to be career goalkeeper coaches, because this is what's happening. People are retire, or they finish playing college soccer, or they retire from the pro game, and they immediately get a college coaching job or club coaching job, an assistant coaching job role or whatever that they're not prepared for. And so they're not prepared for it. And they're now in a coaching silo where no one's helping aid their development, that coach is simply quarterbacking their own development, which fast forward 10 to 15 years, you get coaches who haven't changed because they're not getting fed. They're not being nourished. They're not being developed. They're just doing a task. And they are just continuing to be a watered down version of someone else's influence in their life. So we want to take more space in this area because we recognize that people need support. And it's not just a coaching course. It's not just like, hey, pay us $2,000 and we'll teach you everything we know about TKI and what's made us successful. We want to do life with people. We want people to be inside the walls of TKI, interacting with all of our coaches who have different areas of expertise. There's classroom sessions, there's assessments, there's reviews, there's film breakdowns. We want to teach and collaborate with these people who want to be career goalkeeper coaches. And I truly believe this, and I will say this proudly because it's not that I'm arrogant. I just truly believe this, is that we get calls on a daily basis like, hey, I need a goalkeeper coach. And like, seriously, every level, like even to the pro level, people have called and been like, do you have anybody? Can you recommend someone? And my answer is always like, here's just a couple people I know that are good enough or would be interested in that. And I truly believe if someone spent 2 years with us, even if they didn't know anything about goalkeeping, if they were just an incredible person with good character, that after 2 years of spending coaching time with us, that they really could get a job at most levels in our country, whether that be, club level, college level, USL, whatever. And so we really want to take that initiative and that step to pour into the next generation of coaches. So 1 to 2 year commitment, you get paid a sensible salary. It's not an internship. It's not unpaid. We're going to pay you a sensible wage to come here and work and contribute and learn and collaborate and grow and develop in a really safe space where you would feel prepared to solve most problems, just like we hope to do with our goalkeepers, is help them to be adaptable, flexible, autonomous decision makers. We want to help do that for coaches as well.
Right. Yeah, I mean, obviously, one might say I'm biased because of my my love for TKI and where I'm at right now, but I didn't even know this was an option. If you would have asked me, maybe even when I was like a sophomore in college, if this is what my life would look like, the answer is probably no. And I think that the world works in really mysterious ways, and divine appointment is something that I very much believe in, but I knew I wanted to coach. I didn't know what that would look like. I assumed I was going to have to do it on the side, but almost immediately after coming here, my career path and also my thoughts of what I wanted and my desires for my playing career changed. And I was actually just having this conversation the other day about how I knew I was done trying to play pro. And I think that a big part of that was just stepping foot in TKI and being given the opportunity to see what it looked like to be a career goalkeeper coach, but also just the impact and the fulfillment that I received from it. And I think that not only like getting the opportunity to do that and being like, wow, this is what I can do for my life, and like seeing people do that, but also I waited then probably 4 years before I stepped foot in like a team environment and coach college. And I think that doing that has made me so much better of a coach and so much more prepared for the non-goalkeeper aspects of the job as well. So I can't imagine, having gone right from playing right to coaching at the college level, like what that would have looked like for me. And I'm sure, a lot of trial by fire, but having been in TKI, having learned what I like, what my area of expertise is, honestly, even just simply having to learn how to communicate with bosses and kind of formulate that relationship between you, me, and Maria, and like what it looked like to be a good communicator and what it looked like to be a good employee, what it looked like to be able to lend a hand in a small business, made me transition into being, I think, a much better employee for Jess at St. Joe's as well, because I knew what it looked like to communicate efficiently. I knew what it looked like to be able to control a training environment and make it relate to the game that, our playing style needed. I knew what it looked like to try to help develop someone in all these facets of the game. So I think this is a rare opportunity. And I almost feel like I kind of had a close representation of that, just given my career path. But what this could do for someone, I think, could really change the trajectory of like them as a coach and the trajectory of what their career could look like, and even just provide a framework that is sustainable.
Right. I think that, I get lots of calls from people, coaches, our colleagues outside of TKI, who are like, hey, I aspire to get to this level. How do I do that? And always my first question back is, well, what's your coaching philosophy? And people will say, I try to make everything game-like, and they don't have one, right? And it takes them forever to get that that thought out. And even when they do, I say, that was 5 minutes. Can you just boil that down more and make it simpler so that an 8-year-old could understand what that is? So that because if you can't do that, you really don't know. And I think so many people operate in this world without a coaching philosophy, or without principles of session design, without principles of teaching interventions, and without principles of play for goalkeepers. I mean, we have developed all of that. We have, hey, when the ball's here, these are our jobs. And when the ball is here, here are some things that you need to be able to contemplate really quickly and make your decision based off of this. When the ball's in these areas, our priority is space defense. When the ball's in these areas, it could be both. It could be goal defense, could be space defense. Your vertical positioning could be is based on how can you effectively impact multiple outcomes without conceding the opportunity to protect the goal, right? We have all of these things, and we want to be able to share that with people so that they can be the most effective coach that they can be, that they can get to whatever level they aspire to get to, and not only get to that level, but enjoy themselves and enjoy that process. I have never enjoyed coaching more than in the last 4 to 5 years, where I view it as a collaboration between two people figuring out how to create this do a puzzle together. That's like in my head, because Marie and I have been doing puzzles at night, and it's fun because we're doing it together. And she's like, hey, you might need this piece over here because you're working on that moose or whatever on our puzzle, and we're doing it together. And I think the coolest part is that my puzzle that I'm doing with, let's say, Addie, is going to be looking a lot different than the puzzle I'm doing with Kate. And I think that's so fun, that no matter how a goalkeeper interprets the position, that we can aid in their process and we can support their development in a way that feels in alignment with them and in alignment with us. And I never had that before we started coaching this way, and before we had principles, and before we started to do more research and studying and the science and the data of effective methods with skill acquisition, right? So we want to be able to provide that to coaches so that you can kind of just like eliminate the first 6 years of my career at TKI and be like, okay, that didn't work. And we now want to show you what we believe to be the most effective way. And also, it's not the only way. We want to collaborate with you. We want to hear your ideas and like what you're passionate about. Like Tori, you're passionate about creating a really safe environment. And Cam's passionate about 1v1s, and maybe Mikey's passionate about scanning. And who knows, the coaches that come through the doors could be passionate about other things and really push that forward, that understanding, that a new way of doing things. Because to us, we're not practicing with goalkeepers to be successful right today. We're preparing them to be successful in 10 years' time, because that game is going to look way different. And I think, our principles will help us do that, not even knowing what the trends will be in 10 years, but to paint a broad picture of, here are the skills, here are the ways that we make decisions, and like, let's have at it. How can you interpret it individual to you and your skill set and your attributes? And I think that's what we try to do for coaches as well.
Yeah. I love it. I'm really excited about it. I always joke around like about the internship. I'm like, you guys bring in these people and then we do life with them and we really like them, and then they leave. Maybe they come back in the summer and then they go back again. And I'm like, it's funny, but it's like the design. Maria's always like, Tori, that's what it's supposed to do.
Right.
Except for you, Tori, you're going to stay here forever.
Right.
But I think that's what this is going to do too. And it's great because we need more support. Like, everybody needs support. I need support and I go to you. You need support and you go to Maria. And like, we need to help each other to grow. And I just think that this apprenticeship mentorship is going to give that to people. And I hope that, we have an overflowing inbox of people wanting to apply for it, because I think that it's something that can really set up people for success in their next steps. And then once you're in, you're part of this family too. Maybe you choose to stay at TKI and coach locally, or just coach at TKI, or maybe you go and you coach for Portland. And I just think that it's something that can be really helpful for people, not only in their next steps, but also for the full time of their career as a coach.
Yeah. I mean, it really could set the stage for the rest of someone's career, just being more prepared to be the best coach that they can be. And also, it is invaluable. My relationships at TKI are invaluable. Like, I have a question and I go to you, and then I also might ask the same question to the entire staff. Just having that community is so, so important. And that trust that, like, I can ask a question that's maybe feels silly, but like everyone else is like getting on board, and like our group chat is very enlightening, and everyone's sharing their opinions. And I wouldn't trade it for anything else in the world.
Nope. Love it.
I think honestly,
the rest of my life in South Jersey, I didn't. I certainly didn't know that. But here we are.
Yeah, here we are. And I'm
not going anywhere.
It's really cool because we're working on a long-term project for the next 4 to 5 years. But in the immediate, we have also been going to San Diego. We're going to Florida in March, which we're really excited about. Hopefully planning something on the West Coast for like a select camp next summer, maybe in the Seattle area, hoping, fingers crossed. But we're going everywhere. And we want to help people no matter where we go, no matter where you are. And so if that's you and you're like, hey, I'm so interested in coaching, like reach out, even if it's just to establish a relationship with us. We really want to help. We're super passionate about it. Our mission is to great goalkeepers, better people, and change the landscape of goalkeeping around our country, and just continue to set the blueprint for an effective way to teach. And like love on people. That's so important to us. But if you're a goalkeeper and you've made it all the way here, good for you. But we also want to work with you in person. So if you guys want to come join us this summer, we've got select camps, we've got clinics all throughout the year. Plenty of opportunities to come work alongside of us and collaborate with us and allow us the privilege to pour into you and your journey. Tori, I got a question for you.
You have a question for me?
Yeah, I got a question for you. What is your favorite season of the year?
So tough. Very tough.
You can only choose one.
I know, I have two.
Okay.
I think it's fall. And 2 reasons. One, I love like competing with my team. I think it's so much fun, and kind of like watching the fruits of their labor get put to action is a blast. But I also feel very nostalgic about like my hometown and where I grew up when it's fall, and that season feels closest to like what it felt like growing up.
Oh, that's a good answer. I could do without spring. I don't like the rain. I don't
Really?
like where the weather goes back and forth between warm and cold. I really don't like that. I like fall, especially in Asheville. But right now it's winter, and I love winter when it snows a lot. Not like the annoying snow that like gets in the way, but like I'm not talking about like a foot of snow. I just love that. I love being in the snow. We went snowboarding last weekend, which was a lot of fun, and I will do a probably solo podcast on my experience and share with people how to be in the learner shoes. And yeah, winter.
Good one.
Yeah,
I like winter. We don't really get a winter here though. I feel like it's
I
fake.
know it's not great. No, it's not great.
You should go where I grew up. They get snow all the time, all winter long, sometimes into April.
Maybe I'll retire there.
To Syracuse, New York.
No, no, no. Just somewhere where I can ski on a regular basis.
I was gonna say, I don't know if you want to retire there, girl. There's better spots.
Yeah.
I don't. Let me give you a question that I think our listeners would want.
Oh boy.
Okay. I want to know, what is your most like important character trait? Like, because you have this, like, it makes you who you are.
I think I'm so stubborn. I think I'm so stubborn. And I think people would view that as a negative, but I think I'm so stubborn of like let's say two. I'm so stubborn that there is a better way to do things, and I'm so stubborn that I'm going to make that happen, or I'm going to make that work, or in my marriage, like I'm stubborn that we're going to make this work no matter what. I'm stubborn about like I am going to be a positive force in my children's life, or I am going to, no matter what the circumstance, be a a positive role model for people at TKI. Or I'm just stubborn about making things work, and even when people are like, that won't work, or you shouldn't do that, I'm like, we will. Maybe a better word is resilient. But the second character trait is probably curious. I'm so curious. Like, spend at least 1 hour every single day studying, at least 1 hour studying and reading, and just trying to understand more things about being the best coach I can be, because I really care about helping people. What about you?
Snaps. I think that the thing that people like see most is how energetic I am. I have a lot of energy. I just love life. I love getting to interact with people, and like it really fills me up to get to do what I get to do. So I think that that's something that like sometimes draws people to me, is that energy that I have. But I think behind that energy is also like passion. So I have so much energy because I'm doing what I love and I'm super passionate. And I tend to get super passionate about things that I really like and go all in. And Jill, I think you could think about the supplements.
I was just gonna say that.
When I'm into something, I'm like really into it. I get like hyper fixated on it.
Yeah.
So I think that that's something that like makes me who I am, though, is like how passionately I dive into what I like, or where I even feel like I need to be better.
Yeah. So something I love about you.
Makes us tick, baby. These are the things that make us us.
It really does. All right, you guys, you have a fantastic day. We care about you so much. Reach out if you need any support. Reach out if you have questions, feedback, any single thing. We want to hear from you guys. Have a badass day. Love yourself. Do something that makes you smile. Peace out. Catch you later.